NSFW, I am ashamed of what turns me on. I don't know where to share this and I'm so sorry if this is too much information. I will start by saying I'm an adult female. I have wanted to say this to someone/my intimate partner for so long but don't really feel comfortable telling anyone. I'm ashamed of the things that turn me on. They aren't normal but I can't help it. I think I was introduced to porn at too young of an age and have grown into some weird attractions, and I guess I'm going to share them all today. The first is one that I've never heard of for a woman to be into, and it is probably the biggest of the three I'll be sharing. I have fantasies of being intimate with conventionally unattractive men with small genitalia. I don't have a shame/humiliation fetish and I wouldn't want to humiliate them, but there is just something so attractive to me about going down on a man with a small penis, to the point that even just thinking about it gets me excited. I also fantasize about completely silent sex where the man just lays there and lets me do whatever I want without saying anything, with their eyes covered. Particularly face riding. I think this one is because I'm so insecure about myself. I know there's more, but the last I'm going to share today is that I'm really attracted to through underwear stuff. I am really turned on by non-penetrative heavy grinding to completion with underwear on. I am really attracted to men's genitalia outlined in fabric. It's just weird. All of my friends have normal sexual desires and I'm already the freaky one. My significant other has made it clear he's weirded out by my more normal kinks, so I feel like I could never share any of my other more unusual desires with him, excluding the first because that's obviously not even something he'd be able to do. I just wish normal sex turned me on more. I slept with my sister's husband and accidentally outed him. A bit of context to this situation. I'm trans, more specifically MTF, male to female, 26F. About 15 years ago I realized that I was meant to be a girl, like was 100% positive the usual stuff of being effeminate and dressing up in girls' clothes in secret. I tried to keep this hidden for as long as I could. I was raised in a very religious and conservative family who were really against the whole LGBT thing, and anytime I would try hint towards it they would shut me down and sent me to my priest to get the thoughts out of my head. When I was 13, my aunt, who I was really close to, she was on the outskirts of the family and didn't really have a relationship with them, but whenever my parents and sister would go away I would stay with her. I confided in her about what I had been going through, crying, bawling my eyes out and dry heaving after revealing this secret to her. She accepted me for who I was and took me out shopping the next day, and for the next 2 weeks I lived in full girl mode and it was the best week of my life. Eventually the day of my parents coming to pick me up and taking me back home to live my life again sent me into a deep depression, and after talking with my aunt and close friends I decided to come out to my family. My dad hit me, my mom hit me, and my sister spat on me and beat me, calling me a disgusting faggot, etc. They kicked me out and totally disowned me, and at 13 my aunt took me in and we started the necessary step to get me proper treatment. I cannot thank my aunt enough. During this time I consider her my true mother. She helped me through my hormone treatment, therapy, as well as any other surgeries. She was there for me during university, which she helped pay for, and support me whenever I needed help. I haven't seen or met my biological family since that day when I was 13, nor did I want to. Surprisingly, most of my relatives, grandparents, etc. would want to see me and kinda shut them off after they had heard what they had done to me, and were very supportive of me. Anyway, that's the backstory now to that night. I was at a club with some of my friends, the usual drinks and dancing, when I was approached by a guy. Now, me being trans, I told him immediately that I was MTF and hadn't had bottom surgery yet. He was totally fine with it and there was a spark. Long story short, we went back to my place and hooked up. When I awoke the next morning his phone was on the bedside table buzzing away, and when I looked at it he had 6 missed calls from his wife. Obviously I was mortified that this man had a wife and I could have potentially have ruined his marriage, so I woke him up, not angry or anything, but in a stern tone asked him if he was married. He was surprisingly honest with me, saying that he was from a religious family and that it had been a forced marriage and he had been gay all along, but he was into deep, etc. I was a bit angry and told him that he should be honest with his wife, and we had an honest heart-to-heart, saying I could relate to him with me being from an extremely religious family that didn't accept me and abandoned me. We exchanged contact numbers and kept close contact over the next few weeks, occasionally meeting up for coffee to discuss life and try to help him through his issues. So one day we decide to meet up for coffee and he says he wants to bring his wife to have a proper discussion and see if I can mediate. Obviously I don't want to be known as the affair, but I see a bit of myself in this guy and I don't want him to go through the hell that I suffered. I agree. I get there early and sit down with my coffee. When I see him entering the door with his wife, my whole body shuts down like him in utter shock. Shaking and tearing up, I realize it's my sister. They both sit down and it's obvious that he's told her that he's had an affair with me. But she doesn't recognize me. So I'm visibly holding back tears and in the midst of a panic attack when he starts explaining to her that he's gay and that has always been like this and that I've been helping him come to terms with his sexuality, etc. She seems reasonably calm at this information, but then starts berating me, calling me all sorts of names under the sun and telling me that I'll never be a real woman, calling me the scum of the earth for sleeping with a married man. So at this point the years of trauma and panic just finally came to the forefront, and I just said to her it's David BTW, which was my old name, but I go by Jenna now. There was a solid 15 seconds of silence before she got pale, grabbed her coat and left without saying a word. The husband was obviously confused and asked me what was going on, so I explained in short terms that I had come out as trans at 13 and she had beaten and berated me and my family had abandoned me and the woman that he had been forced to marry was my sister. He gets up and leaves. The fallout was tough. My sister found my social media and just tagged me in posts outing her husband and calling me a homewrecker. I was forced to deactivate after I was getting bombarded with her friends and family telling me to kill myself and just some hurtful slurs. But the guy left her and last I heard had found a partner that he was happy with. My aunt found the whole situation hilarious and sometimes I look back on it and laugh. But yeah, I had to get this on my chest and my therapist recommended that I write it out, so I thought this was the best place for it. Do you think my wife overreacted? Okay, so my wife is carrying twins RN and I'm very excited to be a father. We had my family over for supper and my mom made a joke about how our babies won't end up being as cute as my brother's kids because I've never been much to look at. I'm used to comments like these and just usually graze over them. But my wife had enough and ended up exchanging some words with my mom and ended up calling her the B word. The whole family is taking my mom's side and saying my wife overreacted. When I talked to her about this, she said she felt the need to comment on it because she's tired of her being an a-hole to me and that what she said was an insult to our soon-to-be-born children. I appreciate her sticking up for me, but I just really want to keep the peace. I got sexually dominated for the first time in my life. It was interesting. I met this girl who I hit it off with and we were hanging out at her place and smoking weed. We started getting kinda flirty and she told me she wanted to dom me. I'd never been dommed but I was high and horny so I went with it. She reached under her bed and pulled out a suitcase and told me she'd be back. She told me to get comfortable so I tried to be suave and confident so I got naked and laid on her bed. She came back wearing lingerie, stockings and holding the suitcase. In about 10 minutes I was tied to the bed with a mask on. I won't go super into detail and give you a play-by-play but she teased me to the point of making me beg and squirm a lot. Then ended up riding me while I was tied down and I was bitten, scratched and given hickeys etc. but it ended with me having what was probably the most intense orgasm of my life and her holding me afterwards. I think I'm in love, guys. I haven't had normal sex with my wife in over a year now. Only pegging and oral. I don't miss it. Pegging was actually my wife's idea, not mine. I was kind of hesitant at first but I figured why not try it, I only live once. The first time was amazing. I was so tight she could barely fit it in me but with tons of lube and foreplay I took all 8 inches my first time. The moment I felt her strap-on hit my prostate I almost came on the spot. Then she started slowly rocking her hips and making the tip grind on it. I'd never felt anything like it. Before I knew it she was pounding me so hard I had tears in my eyes. My legs were shaking, I had my face buried in the pillow, then suddenly the immense pleasure doubled and I had the most powerful orgasm of my entire life. My eyes crossed, my legs started spasming and I started practically yelling cries of pleasure. Then she pulled out of me and I just laid there twitching and panting on the bed, feeling almost on the verge of coming again just by existing. Now years later this is the only way we have sex 99% of the time, with me eating her out then her pounding me, pulling my hair, biting my neck etc. I haven't put my penis inside of my wife in at least a year at this point and I don't even care.